Did you know that Lukas Podolski is still playing? Well, I didn't, and considering that over the 2000s everyone had collectively decided that he was the next great thing, I asked myself, what happened to him? And then I was shocked to see that nobody has been talking about him. Not many articles ever since he left Arsenal, not a single video going over his downfall, and yet he hasn't even retired. I just needed to know more, and what I found was surprising. The story of his career is as confusing as it is frustrating. Could it be that football just let his talent go to waste? And what is he even doing playing in Poland? How could it be that he only scored 76 goals over the last 10 years, despite playing almost 300 matches? I searched a bit more, and it turns out that the golden boy of German football is running an ice cream shop, even a few kebab restaurants, and he's kind of a rapper now. Trust me, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's go. Many don't know this, but Lukas was actually born in Poland. His parents were both sportsmen, his father a striker just like Lukas would become, and his mom a handball player for the Polish national team. Regardless, at the age of 2 his family had nothing. They barely survived the harsh times brought by the Cold War, and a move to Germany was their best hope at a better life, and so they left their country behind. Things didn't get much better though. They had no money, they didn't understand a word of what people were saying, and for a long time they were a family of 4 in a house with only one real bathroom. It was so crowded that the fact Lukas spent most of his waking hours outside playing football was essential to their home life. In fact, by the age of 6 they got him into his first football academy, FC Bergheim, but the pitch was far away and a lot of the time they couldn't even afford fuel for their car, meaning his only choice was to stay home or smuggle himself into a train, avoiding the ticket collectors. As he has admitted, he went with the second option every single time. At the club, they quickly realized there was something special about him. He could fire off a shot with the kind of strength that's just completely unfit for a young boy. And after 4 years, someone else took notice, an FC Koln scout. At his new academy, he continued being extremely dominant, but in a way, the coach just thought maybe he was a bit too confident in his own ability, and after pestering him about hogging the ball, something rather strange happened. As his first ever coach would tell the press, one day Podolski had a clear chance to score, and instead, he passed. But his teammate missed completely, shooting it above the bar from half a meter away, and still, Podolski kept passing to him again and again, and by the end of the match, against all odds, his coach was now begging him to take the shot. So he replied, "Mister, the only important thing is the team," leaving everyone speechless. This was perhaps one of the moments that defined his career. Podolski was an outstanding talent, but his humbleness and good spirit made it so he could be easily tamed. And though being a hard-working team player is a great quality to have, if it extinguishes the fire inside you, it could be the end. Regardless, just a few years after this incident, at 18 years of age, Podolski was no longer small and frail. His teenage years had made him into a tank, and with Koln struggling financially and offering first-team coach Marcel Koller an non-existing transfer budget, he went looking for talent in the academy and found one Lukas Podolski who had just scored 8 goals in 8 consecutive matches. The decision was instantaneous. It was time for his debut, and right on his second match he would be playing nearly the full 90 versus Bayern. But regardless, by the end of the season they had only played him for half the available matches, and still, he had reached double figures in the league. No 18-year-old had ever managed to reach such numbers in Germany, especially in a team that catches 32 goals all season with their first-choice striker scoring only 4. Podolski was a certified wonder kid, but as you might imagine, Koln had been relegated. Regardless, things didn't exactly look to be heading down for Podolski. He got offer after offer all around Europe, only staying with Koln out of sheer stubbornness and love for his team. Even the Polish national team made an approach, but he had already played with the German under-21s, and once the first team surprisingly called him up for the 2004 Euros, he never looked back. Once the tournament was over, he was easily the most famous and sought-after second-tier player in the world, and so to no one's surprise, he took the league by storm, topping the goal-scoring charts, scoring 29 and getting 9 assists in 32 matches across all competitions, sending Koln straight back to the Bundesliga. This led to another huge wave of transfer offers, but once again he didn't budge, and though his numbers slowed down once back on the first tier, by the end of 2005 he would be on the podium of the Golden Boy Award, only behind Messi and Rooney. But yet, the story had the same ending. His form went up, at one point getting 10 goal contributions in 11 matches, but still, Koln were depressing to watch at most and were relegated once more. But this did not stop Podolski from joining Germany for his first ever World Cup, finally becoming a key player, scoring 3 goals as Germany took the bronze medal, becoming an absolute fan favorite and making sure his name was known all across Europe, beating even the likes of Ronaldo and Messi to the award for Young Player of the Tournament. Now more than ever, it seemed Podolski's success was only a matter of time. And so it was right then and there that Bayern offered the sum of £10 million, which Koln, still struggling financially, was in no place to reject, and after years of unwillingness to accept his fate, Podolski finally moved. However, maybe he was right to repeatedly postpone it, as in his first season he managed a mere 4 goals, as Bayern somehow fell down to a measly 4th place. Even as minor injuries hampered his performances, it would be dishonest to say he didn't disappoint. And on his second season there, both Luka Toni and Miroslav Klose came into the mix, and Podolski had to settle for playing on the wing or not playing at all. Even the silverware at the end of the season couldn't lift his spirits. Over summer, however, he did get to shine once again, scoring 3 and assisting 2 at the Euros, with all 5 goal contributions being completely essential as Germany skimmed their way to the final, where Spain would end their dream. Still, Podolski not only finished as the second highest goal scorer of the tournament, only 1 goal behind David Villa, but he also made the team of the tournament, proving that under the right circumstances, he could surely shine on the biggest of stages, which only made the following season more confusing, as Podolski would once again be rather underwhelming, hitting only 9 goals, being brushed to the side for most of the season and being deemed as not a good fit for Bayern. Surely there were great teams and coaches willing to risk it all for his talent, especially with the 2008 Euros still fresh in everyone's memory, but instead, in proper Podolski fashion, he nearly begged Bayern to let him go back to Koln, with the move being set up for only 10 million euros, only just making sure Bayern didn't lose money on the player, but yet, as you might imagine, Koln still couldn't afford that. So in one of the most absurd transfer sagas of all time, with a friendly match even being set up between the two clubs so the proceeds could go towards the transfer, in the end, it only became possible because Michael Schumacher, huge fan of FC Köln and part-time F1 world champion, paid for it. Okay, I'm joking, sort of. He only donated around 1,000 euros. In fact, it was the fans who set up a crowdfunding page where companies could buy pixels for 25 euros each, hopefully totaling up to 1 million euros that could bring Podolski to the club. But in reality, though the transfer was completed, I'm pretty sure they never reached that goal. Speaking of things that didn't meet the expectations, Podolski's first season at Köln was perhaps the biggest miss of his career. 1, 2, 3 goals was all he managed as the club finished in the bottom half. Still, this didn't stop him from being included in the squad for the 2010 World Cup, where he joined a team full of young talents in another great run that earned him a bronze medal, as Podolski cemented his status as an international hero with 2 goals and 2 assists, once again leaving fans scratching their heads at how it was possible that he wasn't cutting it at club level, only to then go on to score 14 and assist 7 in the league for Köln, going even further the following season, moving back to his usual role as a striker and finishing the season with a goal contribution every 74 minutes, which was still not enough to keep Köln afloat, as Podolski went through the 3rd relegation of his career at 28 years of age. All he had to show for his career so far were 3 relegations and 3 top-flight trophies. It really wasn't a pretty sight, but yet, his talent still managed to shine through all of that, earning him a 15 million euro move to Arsenal, with Köln retiring his number for the rest of his career and Podolski tattooing their badge on his arm. After becoming the youngest ever player to hit 100 matches for a national team, he finally joined his new club and everyone could see what was being done. It was meant to replace the irreplaceable Robin van Persie, which, given his track record, seemed like the most daunting of tasks, and though he did manage an impressive 23 goal contributions in 27 starts by February, easily becoming a fan favorite, he was repeatedly being called out for not helping out in their defensive phase and being inconsistent, which proved fatal once his goal scoring dried out over the last 4 months of the season. Once this was followed by a harsh injury lasting 105 days and spanning over 21 matches, some began writing him off, but surprisingly he finished the season with 12 goals and 5 assists, one every 92 minutes, contributing to 4 goals in 4 starts as Arsenal won the FA Cup, their first trophy in almost a decade. Surely now Podolski would get the respect he deserved, right? Well, no, the opposite happened. He was benched for most of the 2014 World Cup, watching from the sidelines as his beloved national team finally made history, winning their first trophy after 28 years before coming back to Arsenal, who would more often than not disregard him completely following the arrival of Alexis Sanchez, even though he once again popped off in the Champions League with 3 goals, now totaling 8 in 12 UCL matches with Arsenal, only to be shipped out on loan to Inter midway through the season, after saying, "I like London, I like the club, but what I don't like is feeling like some clown sitting out his contract on the stands." What frustrates me the most about his time at Arsenal was not just that he didn't get enough time, it was that the most common complaint was that he was inconsistent and didn't help defensively, which is ironic, considering that Podolski was a striker being played on the wing. I might be talking crazy, but I don't know, maybe play him in his natural role? I guess I'm getting off track. Regardless, in Italy, things hit rock bottom. Mancini quite simply did not like Podolski, he was not even registered for European football, Shaqiri arriving at the same time stole the spotlight from him, and with Icardi he once again had no chance at playing at striker, so he was quickly forgotten, being named the second worst winter signing in the league before being shipped off to Galatasaray. With Turkey being known for revitalizing careers, it's no wonder that the same happened to Podolski, putting up some good numbers and even scoring the decisive goal in the final of the Turkish Cup against rivals Fenerbahce, which, in a way, earned him a place in the Euro 2016, his final tournament with Germany, as they made it to the semi-finals for the 6th consecutive time. And among all of this, he has also found the time to release a rap song about how much he loves the city of Koln, and before he dismissed this saying he must have lost a bet or that he was just playing around, well, the song hit #1 on the German billboards, so clearly people have enjoyed it to some degree. Regardless, let's get back to football. The following season his numbers dropped, even though he did score 5 goals in a match at one point, and so a move to Vissel Kobe in Japan was set up, playing his final match for Germany in a testimonial match versus England, scoring the only goal of the match, an absolute screamer that led Thomas Muller to mock him for his cliché fairy tale ending. At Vissel Kobe he was eventually joined by Iniesta and David Vida, but his numbers were never jaw-dropping, and after an underwhelming move to Antalyaspor that lasted for a season and a half, Podolski finally moved to Gornik Zabrza, where he would earn 7 times less than anywhere else, but also where he had promised his late grandmother he would play even if just for 1 season, as it was the club she supported all her life. Regardless, even there he hasn't been pulling off the most impressive numbers. I actually went to check, and incredibly over the last 10 years, he has only scored 74 goals, most of them in Turkey, which shows that he pretty much just gave up after leaving Arsenal, which is at the very least a bit depressing. But the fact that he's still playing there isn't even the strangest thing about the last few years of his life, because, well, he also got a few other side gigs that are strange to say the very least. Opening an indoor football pitch, 6 kebab shops, and the one he seems to take the most pride in, an ice cream shop in Koln, he opened nearly 4 years ago. In fact, though of course he isn't working a 9 to 5, here and there he makes sure to make an appearance serving a few cones and signing autographs to the delight of many fans.